Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am really excited today for my conversation with Dr. Debi Silber. She is the founder of the PBT, Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, and is a holistic psychologist, a health, mindset, and personal development expert, and is a two-time #1 international best-selling author. Her podcast, From Betrayal to Breakthrough, is also globally ranked within the top 1.5% of podcasts. Her recent PhD study on how we experience betrayal made 3 groundbreaking discoveries that changes how long it takes to heal. In addition to being on Fox, CBS, The Dr. Oz Show, and a TEDx speaker twice, she's an award-winning speaker and coach dedicated to helping people move past their betrayals, as well as any other blocks preventing them from the health, work, relationships, confidence, and happiness they want most. Welcome to the show today, Debi.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So I like to go back. I like to kind of start at the beginning. Born and raised in New York. Take us along your career path. But first, I like to always ask the question, your first educational choice. You went to Hofstra and you studied journalism. Is that right?
It is. You know, I had a double major, TV production, broadcast journalism, and I thought I was going to be this big time TV producer. And what happened was I was sitting in edit rooms till 4 a.m. and just creating all of these things. And it felt really empty for me. There was this one project I was asked to work on, and it was actually involving kids and with disabilities. And I realized that it was about helping people, that was really what interested me. It wasn't the idea of seeing my name scroll, because who even sits around for the end of a show anyway? And so with that, I was like, uh-oh, what do I do with this? I'm going to have 10 years worth of student loans. I have no idea what I want to do. I just want to help people. How do I switch now? So I actually thought, okay, I want to be in health. And I had no idea what that looked like. So I got a job at Nutrisystem. I don't even know if that's still around. And I was like, okay, I'm going to climb the Nutrisystem ladder. And one day my college roommate says, Debi, do you want to just take a class? Are you bored? I'm like, you have no idea. She said, let's take it towards something. And I honestly, Felina, I said, I don't even care what it is. Sign us up. And she said, let's take it towards something. Let's be dietitians. So I enrolled in a combination MSRD masters and dietetics, and she never did. And it put me on this whole other path.
That's amazing. Awesome. Well, let's talk about the path. What were some of your first steps after graduation?
So here I was going to school to be this dietitian, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it and all of this. So I thought, okay, I need to make money. What goes well with being a nutritionist, a dietitian, that I can do while I'm going to school? So I thought about it and I said, okay, I'll be an aerobics instructor. And I thought, well, I'm way too uncoordinated for that. How about if I'm a personal trainer? And so I became certified as an ACE personal trainer. This is a million years ago. And that business blew up. And actually the way it happened was I gave away 2 free sessions at a goods and services auction. The person there were 2 people bidding on these 2 free sessions. The winner never even claimed the prize. The one who was bidding, I wound up seeing 3 times a week for 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. So fitness, you were in the fitness industry, and I know you are, of course, still a fitness enthusiast for a total of how long?
forever. I mean,
Forever.
I remember even just as I was raising my 4 kids, I had, I had to keep them all contained and I wanted to work out. So I remember having this double jogger and I had my 5 and 6 year old in the jogger. I had my toddler in a backpack on my back and I had my newborn in one of those snuggly things in front. And I became known in the neighborhood as the fit mom who wears all those kids.
It's amazing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So let's get into, some of the work that you're doing now. Why betrayal? How did this come about?
I don't think anyone says, I think I want to study
I
betrayal.
know, like it's very
You
unique.
study it because you have to. And so the health journey led to helping people with stress related illnesses and conditions. And then I had my own betrayal from a family member, my family. And I thought I did everything I needed to do to heal. And then it happened a few years later. And this time it was my husband. So that was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house. And I looked at the two experiences thinking, well, what's similar to these two? Of course, me, but what else? And I realized that boundaries were always getting crossed. I never took my own needs seriously. And I'm one of those people that believes if nothing changes, nothing changes. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business. And I decided to go back for a PhD because I go to books to help me with things. And there was no book on this. So I needed a whole PhD in it. And it was in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential. And then I needed to do a study. So I studied betrayal. What holds us back? What helps us heal? And what happens to us physically, mentally, and emotionally when the people closest to us lie, cheat, and deceive. Honestly, I was only trying to heal. That was my goal. But that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
Amazing. All right. So let's dive a little deeper here. Just on the surface, because I know we could probably talk about this for hours, but what does happen to us when we are betrayed?
Yeah. That was actually the first discovery that betrayal is a different type of trauma. Think about it. If you lose someone you love, let's say you grieve, you're sad, you mourn the loss, you don't necessarily take it personally. You don't necessarily lose your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do, because not only does life change as you've known it, but the whole self is shattered. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust, they all have to be rebuilt. So I coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation. That's the complete and total rebuild of your life and yourself after you fully heal from betrayal, because you do become someone completely different. So that was just the first discovery.
Amazing. Okay. So it's interesting. I'm gonna bring in my own experience here, if I may. And I know so many women, and it sounds like you, of course, as well have been through this. Age 30, I've been married for 6 years, and my husband comes home for the second time and tells me he has been with another woman. The first time was with a Mexican hooker. Yeah, and the second time was with someone he was on a film shoot with. He was making movies at the time. And, obviously shattered, but I decided to take the tone of, I'm just going to say it, fuck you. I am better than this. Get the fuck out. And, I just, plowed up the hill. I don't know that I probably took the time I needed to grieve or even experience or be in that emotion. Do you see that a lot from people of just like, F it, I'm moving on? Or, everyone reacts, I'm sure, differently, but what do you see typically?
I do. I see this all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean the healing is complete. So that's the third discovery. And I would love to share that with you, because then you'll know if you truly moved through it or you kind of hopefully move through it. And, one of the things that we learned is that time won't heal it. A new relationship won't heal it unless and until you deliberately and intentionally move through the third discovery, which is the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. It will follow you around like a shadow in your health, your work, your relationships. So I would love to share with you the 5 stages so you can know for sure if you've moved through. Would you like to know
Let's
them?
do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, great. And the second discovery, by the way, is that there's this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post-betrayal syndrome. So once I'm done with the 5 stages, I'm happy to share what those symptoms are, because a lot of people say, oh, it's just aging. Oh, it's just stress. No, it's not. It's your betrayal. So I can go through that after.
Great.
The third discovery, this was for me the most exciting. And what was discovered was, while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people stay stuck, if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome that hopefully I'll share after, to this completely rebuilt place called post-betrayal transformation, we're going to move through these 5 proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every stage. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. So
Awesome.
It's all we do within the PBT Institute. I'm going to give you sort of a boiled down version of what each stage looks like. So everybody, so you and everybody can know, oh my gosh, that's the stage I'm in, because you'll know it as I say it.
Okay.
So stage 1, this is actually before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what I saw with everybody, me too, was this heavy lean on the physical and the mental, thinking and doing. We're so good at this, right? And kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. So if a table only has 2 legs, easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day. This was the moment you learned of the betrayal. And this is the scariest of all of the stages. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. So right here, you've ignited the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is in a complete state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you just learned. It makes no sense. And your worldview has just been shattered. Your worldview is your mental model, the rules that govern you, that prevent chaos. Trust this person. Don't go there, right? And in one earth-shattering moment, all of the rules have been broken, and the bottom has bottomed out on you, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. So it's terrifying. But think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You would grab hold of anything or anyone in order to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. It's the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this? Who can I trust? How do I feed my kids? Right? But here's the trap, though. Stage 3, by far, hands down, is the most common place we get stuck. And here's why. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma of where we just came from, we think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we plant roots here, we park here, we're not supposed to. And 4 things happen. And see if you can remember if you were doing any of these things. Number 1, we start getting all these small self benefits, secondary gain. We get our story. We love our story. We get to be right. We get someone to blame. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to. So on some level, it kind of works. And so we plant deeper roots. Now, because we're here longer than we should be, the mind starts doing things like, maybe you're not that great. Maybe you deserved it. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots. And now, because this is the energy you have, these are the thoughts you're thinking, this is the energy you're putting out. So like energy starts attracting like energy. So now we start having circumstances and situations and even relationships to confirm this is where you belong. This is where many people will join like that lame support group and everybody's just complaining, and they will sabotage their success because they've outgrow their people. This is where you may be healing and you sabotage your healing because you're afraid to outgrow your betrayer. I mean, we see this all the time. It gets worse, but I'll get you out of here. because it feels so bad, but we don't know there's anywhere else to go. Right here, we start numbing, avoiding distracting. We use food, drugs, alcohol, TV, whatever. And think about it. We do this for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years later and say, that emotional eating you're doing, or that numbing in front of the TV, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they look at me like I'm crazy. And they would say, it happened 20 years ago. All they did was lock themselves in stage 3 and stay there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So can I get you out of stage 3?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Please.
So
I don't want to stay here.
I don't want to leave people here. Although this is where most people land and stay. And then you start getting all those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. You medicate and numb the symptoms, and that's all you're doing now. Anyway, if you're willingness is a huge part of this, to grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do. You move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Right there in that decision, you're turning down the stress response. So you're not healing just yet, but you just stopped the massive damage you'd been creating in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever, all your stuff's not there. It's not quite cozy yet, but you're like, okay, we can do this. We got this. Stage 4 feels like that. But what's so interesting is I noticed this. There's this one spot in moving from stage 3 to stage 4. Think about it. If you were to actually move, you don't take everything with you, right? You don't take those things that don't represent who you want to be in your new space. And what I found was if your friends weren't there for you, right here, you don't take them with you. That lame support group, you're done. That betrayer who is not changing, you're done, and you don't take them with you. So people say all the time, what the heck, is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come. Very common. Anyway, when we settle into this space, we make it mentally home. We move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. We didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now we do. The mind is healing. We're making all kinds of new rules and new boundaries based on the road we just traveled. And we have a new worldview based on everything we see so clearly now. And the 4 legs of the table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
Amazing. Wow. I realize that I don't know what stage I'm in, to be honest. That's really, really interesting. I feel like I had all 5 of those stages in 10 minutes, to be honest, but obviously I didn't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's common because unless and until you're moving through the 5 stages, you're doing the best you can. But I'll tell you, we see it in, you haven't healed in these areas, in health and work and relationships. This is what we see. In relationships, I'll see it in one of 2 ways. The first is a repeat betrayal. The faces change, but it's the same thing. People go from boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner, partner. They say, is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault, in that it's your opportunity. There is a profound lesson needing to be learned. You are worthy and deserving, lovable. You need better boundaries in place. And until and unless you get that, you're going to have all of these opportunities in the form of people to teach you. Like in my example, it was my family, and then it was my husband. And for me to do anything for myself, let alone something like enter into a PhD program, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to find the time. I mean, here I was 50 years old, but it was so dramatic. It was so different, and it changed everything. So lesson learned, right? That I need to put myself on my own to-do list. So there's always this big lesson to learn. Anyway, so repeat betrayal, classic sign it's unhealed. The other way in relationships is the big wall goes up. It's like, there's no chance I'm letting anyone get close to me again. That was so painful that we would rather keep everyone at a distance than take the chance of that level of vulnerability and getting hurt again. That's unhealed. We think it's coming from a place of strength. It's not. We see it in health. People go to the most well-meaning, amazing doctors, coaches, healers, therapists to manage a stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. And at the root of it, there's an unhealed betrayal. So, for example, 45% of everyone betrayed has a digestive issue, Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis. You can go to the most amazing digestive experts on the planet. I'm friends with many of them, and they can give you a beautiful protocol. But if you don't get to the betrayal that's at the root of it, you won't fully heal from that gut issue. We see it in work, right? Think about it. If the person you trusted the most proved untrustworthy, the next step of that is, where was I? How did I not see? How did I not know? So if I can't trust the person I trusted the most, and I don't trust in myself, well, how can I trust in that boss, that coworker, that JV partner? It affects everything.
Interesting. Wow. So much to unpack here, Debbie, and so much, I'm sure, to dive into. So what comes afterwards, right? What's
Yeah.
next, so to speak?
Yeah, well, if you really move through the stages, what we see all the time is you heal. And I didn't share the symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, but you heal from all of it. It's interesting. In stages 4 and stage 5, it is so common. We'll see new levels of health. We'll see new businesses birthed. We'll see very new relationships with either the person who hurt you on a much different level or with someone new, because you're ready for it. You don't have access to that beforehand. Like, just to close the loop on my story, rebuilding is always a choice, whether you rebuild yourself and move on. And that's what I did with my family. Or if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something from the ground up new as two completely transformed people. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, as two completely different people, we married each other again.
Wow.
Never in a billion years did I see that coming. But that's when everything crashes and burns, there's an opportunity to build something entirely new. That's a stage 5 thing. The ego can't handle it in any earlier stage. And why would you even take that on at all if the betrayer hasn't completely transformed, and if you haven't become the best version of you as well? Even new businesses like the PBT Institute, that was a stage 5 thing. When you're in your trauma, you don't have access to these new insights and awarenesses that you do in stages 4 and stage 5.
Amazing. So how long after did you remarry your husband?
Yeah, it was probably, I would say, a year.
Okay.
But probably the reason why it went so quickly was I dove into that PhD program and that study, and I was the guinea pig. I mean, I was the case study. So if the study proved it worked, I did it. If the study proved it didn't work, I didn't do it. And I think he changed to the level that he did because he was actually the one who told our 4 kids. And if anything has you wake up and realize what's important, it's realizing that you just lost everyone that you cared about. And I had 4 kids looking at him like, you did what to mom? And it was a gigantic awakening for him.
Yeah, I bet.
And me.
My goodness. Well, I know that you have you've got your amazing TED Talk, 2 TED Talks. Do you have post-betrayal syndrome as one, and Stop Sabotaging Yourself? Folks can watch that on YouTube. You are very active on social. So I encourage folks to go follow you there. Debi Silber is the handle. It looks like on most of your channels. And then, of course, your website, the pbtinstitute.com, where I'm assuming folks can find all of the access points in one spot. Is that right?
Absolutely. And we even have a program for the betrayer too. And it's amazing. We have the betrayer coming into our rebuild program, the betrayed coming into our reclaim program, and they emerge in 2 very different places. So it's very different than couples counseling, where often they're like, everyone is kind of compromising and holding themselves back from their transformations because the goal is just to be okay. But with our programs, the intention is to bring that person to their physical, mental, and emotional best, because that's where you make your best decisions.
Yeah, I can see where that would be very, very powerful to bring both parties together and really work through this together.
Mm.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Debi, for your time. Really enjoyed learning more about you and the amazing work you're doing.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.